You are listening to the Cookbook Love Podcast with Maggie Green, episode number 315.
Welcome to the Cookbook Love Podcast, a podcast that celebrates cookbook readers, buyers, collectors, writers, and clubs. And now your host, cookbook author, culinary dietitian, and cookbook writing coach, Maggie Green.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Cookbook Love Podcast. How's everybody doing today? It is no surprise that the fall is a huge time for cookbook releases. And if you could see my desk and my email box, you would see that that is really so true. So many promotions for such great books that are coming out this year. And it's kind of interesting where I've gotten to with this podcast in terms of the requests and the number of shows that I do every week. So I'm having to be selective and pick shows that I think, first of all, I'm really excited to talk to the authors. Second of all, that I believe is a good cross-section of cookbooks published. I don't want to do just one type of book. I want to show possibility for a lot of different types of writers and a lot of different publishing avenues so that you can see that cookbooks are published in a lot of different ways. And also so that you can be exposed to many different kinds of cookbook writing topics and cookbook writers. Along those lines, my husband and I celebrated an anniversary a couple weeks ago, and we took a trip down to the Bourbon Trail in central Kentucky. If you're not familiar with the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, and if you like bourbon whiskey, this might be something that you might be interested in perhaps pursuing or traveling to. We went to 4 different distilleries over 3 days, and the first distillery that we walked into had a beautiful new tasting room, and I'm walking around looking at the things in the tasting room, waiting for our tour to start, and lo and behold, there was a stack of my cookbooks. Now, it's not uncommon that in a Kentucky bourbon tasting room that they sell books about cooking and with bourbon and related to Kentucky. And Kentucky Fresh was in there, quite a large stack of books, and then there was a woman standing next to the stack of books that was holding a copy of my book. So I started talking to her, found out she was from New Orleans. She was buying a copy of the book. She loved the introduction to the September chapter in Kentucky Fresh because it's organized by month. So it's a seasonal cooking journey through a Kentucky year with 12 chapters, January through December. And so she opened up to September. She started to read, and she said, I've got to have a copy of this book. So I signed it for her. We took a couple pictures, and she went off to her tour. I went off to mine. And, I was just so thrilled that my books were there and so grateful to my publisher for the distribution that they have and the way that their sales team continues to distribute the book in places like that where people are coming that they know are going to be interested in cookbooks. And then we went to another distillery after that. And then for the 4th distillery, they had a nice tasting room also, and the book was there again. Now, this time I didn't see anybody actually holding it, but there was a large stack of the books there for people to buy. September is a Bourbon Heritage Month in Kentucky, and also maybe out of Kentucky also, I'm not really sure. And then this weekend, coming up is the Bourbon Festival in Bardstown. So a lot of people travel to the state this time of year, and it just was so great to see the cookbooks there. Interestingly enough, on this, I think it was the 3rd distillery, they did have cookbooks in the tasting room. One of them, though, was written by the woman whose mother and her mother that owned the distillery. So they were promoting and selling their own book, which of course made sense. And in the 4th distillery, I don't think they had any books for sale. But this just goes to show that sometimes the publishers that are best for our books are publishers that have distribution into channels that the book topic that we're writing about is perfect. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. When I wrote my Kentucky cookbook, I could not have thought of a better publisher than UK Press. It was perfect for the type of book I was writing. The book is still in print, still being distributed, obviously, still being sold, still being bought. And that probably wouldn't have happened if my book had been published by a larger publisher that has really broad distribution nationwide, but doesn't focus on backlist books as much as Kentucky Press does. So I want to, if anybody from Kentucky Press is listening to this, or just I want to send out the energy of being so appreciative for the work that they do. And it also makes me think that my second book, which was published by another publisher, but it's also a Kentucky topic, but they're not based in Kentucky. I need to let them know about these bourbon tasting rooms and just how beautiful they are. The people that come in are interested in food, they're interested in beverage, they're maybe interested in cooking, and how Kentucky Cookbook really could be marketed there in a beautiful way. So I had to put on my thinking cap about that one and talk to my publisher of my second book to get that out there. You know, we always, if we're writing cookbooks, thinking about our books and thinking about the people that buy them. And of course, with this podcast, I think about you a lot as the listener, people who love to read, write, and collect cookbooks. And today I want to introduce you to a really amazing young woman who I'm going to interview. Her name is TwayDeBae. TwayDeBae is a Vietnamese chef and one of the fastest rising stars in the culinary space. Since graduating from culinary school and beginning her content creation journey, TwayDeBae has showcased her skills through social media as well as sold-out pop-ups. These pop-ups led to partnering with the H. Wood Group to open her restaurant DeeDee in Los Angeles. In our conversation today, TwayDeBae and I talk all about her new cookbook, Dean, the salty, sour, sweet, and spicy flavors of Vietnamese cooking, and she shares how she got started on her food journey. For her cookbook project, TwayDeBae discusses her love for nostalgia, her passion for Vietnamese food heritage, and the joy of creating a community of food enthusiasts all around Vietnamese cooking. TwayDeBae also shares her tips for you getting into the kitchen to start Vietnamese cooking, with a discussion of the basic ingredients that you might need in your pantry, and we discuss some recipes to get started with, some that are classics, some that are internet famous, and several from her pop-ups in real life. So without further delay, let's dive into this interview with TwayDeBae. Hi, TwayDeBae. Welcome to the Cookbook Love podcast.
Hi, Maggie. Thank you so much for having me. This is exciting.
It is exciting. I'm excited for you to be here. You have a brand new book. We're going to talk all about that. But before we get started, I would love for you to introduce yourself, who you are, and what you do.
Hi, everyone. My name is TwayDeBae. I am a chef, a restaurant owner, and a content creator that makes easy to follow recipes online. I guess now I can say a cookbook author.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah. Dream to write a cookbook, probably something you've had for a while, or did this all come about because of your work in your restaurant and with your food experience?
I feel like I started this journey like really backwards, even though I started off the journey wanting to go to culinary school, actually went to culinary school and thought that I was just going to work my way up the ladder and then eventually, open up the restaurant, and somehow, some way, maybe somebody would be interested in me writing a cookbook somewhere down the line. But I feel like everything just got, everything's like backwards because of social media now.
Yeah.
The power of social media and how it basically landed me a restaurant and landed me this cookbook.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody curious about your journey, how you got to where you are from. Let's go back a little bit to the beginning, your journey individually that led you to hop on social media and talk about your heritage and the food of your heritage.
Yeah. So honestly, I never thought, or I never decided actively that I was like, Vietnamese food and Vietnamese culture is something that I have decided to dedicate my life to. I think as a Vietnamese person that was born over there and spent like 8 years of her life like growing up there, and then coming over to America and adjusting to American culture and American food, the way that I adjusted was I found similarities within my culture and in American culture as well. And that was how I was able to, connect still with my roots and with the new culture that I was like brought into. And so it's always been a part of me, even if I didn't realize it was. And then until I started creating content on social media, it was just something that just came naturally to me. I was never like actively, oh, I'm Vietnamese food, Vietnamese culture is what I'm going to focus on, but it just really happened that way.
Yeah, and I think sometimes the most authentic experiences for food with people is if they really lean in to what they know and what they're the closest to in terms of their life. And I know that that is something you have done through and through, not only with your social media channel, but now with your new book, Deanne.
Yeah.
And your heritage is at the center of everything that you do. Tell us what you mean by that. I read that in the book, and I've thought about that since I knew you were coming on the show because you don't always see that. But what did it mean for you to like put that in the middle of everything?
What I mean by that is every single project, every single product that I put out, I always make sure that there's always something Vietnamese to it, whether it's the title, whether it's the, like the name of the package, whether it's like even when I create American recipes, for example, like spaghetti or I don't know, mac and cheese, I'll put some Vietnamese flair into it. And so no matter what I do, I always have to put some type of Vietnamese style or Vietnamese flair into it. So that's what I mean.
Yeah. And I think that your journey to actually go to culinary school wasn't something that your family necessarily had in mind from the very beginning.
Oh no, I don't think it was what I had in mind either. I genuinely did not think I was going to go. But the thought of going to nursing school and not finishing nursing school scared me
Yeah.
even more. Or finishing it and not feeling fulfilled scared me even more. And so there was just this little inkling of like, I want to just explore this option that I think I might have a little bit of interest in versus something that I know deep down that I'm not going to like,
Yeah.
was more appealing to me. So I decided to go to culinary school and see what was, there in that world for me.
Yeah. And what was it like going to culinary school in the US?
It was it was really fun. M- it- Most of it was fun. A little bit stressful because they kind of made you like adjust to like the restaurant times.
Mhm.
So you would get in like really early. I would get in at probably like 6 in the morning, start prepping, start cooking, so then like we can have lunch, so like just adjusting to the schedule was like really hard. But it was really fun, especially the kitchen classes because and I thought it was gonna be all kitchen classes, but I was wrong. You
Yes.
have you have sit down classroom classes when you're in culinary school too. And you sit there and you take notes and you take exams. And I didn't expect that to be a part of culinary school, but it is. So that was one thing that kind of caught me off guard. I was like, "Oh, we're not in the kitchen today." Okay. Um and I mean finding making new friends and like I guess like making friends that are interested in the same things that I'm interested in, especially food, was really cool too because we got to bond just over cooking and over food in general. So that was really fun. And I got a lot of opportunities just to like help out with in different kitchens and at different events too through my culinary school. So that was fun as well. I think yeah, I don't have anything bad to say about
Yeah.
culinary.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
No,
was
it's
an
great.
enjoyable experience for me.
Yeah. And it really is a way that people can get professionally trained in cooking. And that led you to the next step, which was what?
So through culinary school, I was able to get a staging spot at Spago, and I thought this was going to be the key to unlock my future. I thought that this was going to, like this was the start of everything. I'm just gonna climb my way up the ladder there and work my ass off and do whatever it is chefs do to, make it and eventually, I don't know, become um like the big dog in the kitchen or whatever. But I just um that just like never happened for me because I went into it really bright-eyed, really just enthusiastic and just really hopeful until the reality of what working in the kitchen was like came down on me, and I realized that I maybe have made the wrong decision to go to culinary school, or maybe this type of working environment wasn't for me. So I just kind of took a step back from like working in the kitchen.
Yeah. And then what happened after that?
So when I took a step back, I one didn't have a job,
Yeah.
but two, I had all the time in the world. So what I decided to do was to create content because I didn't know what else to do with my time because at the time I was watching a lot of YouTube. I love just watching YouTube, just love watching people live their life. And I was like, these people get paid to record their life. What if I just like get paid to eat food? And so I started to create content of doing food vlogs. And I would bring people along to, try out new restaurants in LA or buy takeout and eat them at home. And I would just like have story times and sit downs and catch ups with people. And a lot of times people watch my YouTube videos, my like food eating YouTube videos, just to have somebody to like eat with. So I thought that was like really cool. And when I would travel, specifically in Vietnam, I would bring people along on that journey of like what food is like in Vietnam, what are the different types of street foods, like how do you eat certain types of foods that are there. And so like it just became this thing. I was like, this is so cool because I really love to, like showcase to people that there's more to Vietnamese food than just pho and banh mi because those are even though I love me a good pho and I love me a good banh mi and I cannot eat pho, I cannot go to Vietnam and not eat
Right.
pho and banh mi. I just feel like there's just so much more to it. So then it was really cool just showing people that there's more to it than that. And then one thing led to another. Um, the pandemic happened. What March of 2020
Right.
happened, and I wasn't able to take people around to go eat at different restaurants or get takeout. So I was like, what do I do now? And I pivoted and I was like, I know how to cook. So let's just make a cooking video because we have food. This is
Yes.
food content. And so I made my first video. I didn't even expect that video to blow up the way it did. Because if you watch that video, I'm like, I just woke up. I just wanted to cook for my family because for once everybody was home. My mom, my dad, my sister, like everybody was home. So I'm like, this is perfect. I'm going to make fried rice and I'm going to make content out of that fried rice. So let's go.
Yes.
And it blew up. And that was when I realized like, whoa, okay, I know how to cook. So let's start making this content. Let's start making cooking content because obviously people really really like it. And I think the reason why people liked it was because I made it in a way where it felt approachable and just easy. I mean, granted it was a fried rice recipe, but it was still in a way where it was like really just like it just seemed like an average person without like any type of like knowledge in cooking could do. So I feel like that was one of the reasons why people really gravitated towards that video. And so I started just to create more and more and more recipes. And every single one of the recipes that I shared was either like a Vietnamese recipe that I felt was really easy to follow or just an easy to follow recipe in general. And so after after the lockdown and when they let everyone outside again, I told my manager like, hey, I I know that people know me online as like the girl that like cooks, but I feel like I went to school for this and I want to be able to feed people in real life. Is there a way where we like I can cook for people in real life? So he suggested for me to do a pop-up.
Mm.
And so he went around asking his friends in LA, like his friends that have restaurants or know people that have restaurants, to let us borrow a restaurant for a night to test out this pop-up idea. And so he reached out to one of his friend that owns the H Wood group, and they Brian Toll, he allowed me to use one of their location, and they asked us like, so what's the measure of success here? Like, since this is our first time, how do we know that this pop-up thing is going to work out and it's successful? Because we're trusting you with a restaurant for one night. Like, you have to be able to, like, I don't know, sell,
Yeah.
bring people in.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, well, let's aim for 50 tickets because we don't know what the measure of success is. This is our first pop-up. We've never done this. And so we released tickets and we sold a little over 350 tickets.
Wow.
And so we were like, okay, shut the tickets down. I don't think the restaurant can handle this. And it actually couldn't. And so what Brian told us was, okay, I'm going to let you borrow the restaurant for 2 nights. So it was 2 nights in a row, a sold out pop-up. It was such an incredible time that I was riding on this high of like, I want to do more. I want to experience more because the style of pop-ups is so it's just so versatile that you can just play around with it. Like a restaurant itself, a brick and mortar is so permanent and it's every day, So I'm like, this style of pop-up, I think I can do because I can play around with the menu. I can I can play around with the service styles, whether I want it to be a sit down full service or a very casual pop-up. And that's exactly what I did for a whole entire year. I just played around with different styles of pop-ups. One ranging from like a sit down, like 6 course dinner. Another is like a simple sandwich pickup. And then I also went over to New York to host a pop-up. So it was a very fun run of pop-ups. And after my last pop-up, it was actually with Chef Roy Choi. That was like
Oh, yeah.
really, really cool to just be able to be in the same kitchen with him and work with him on this project. It was very surreal. So after that, I got approached by Brian Toll again, and he was like, "Hey, like we've been keeping an eye on you. We love what you're doing. We love the pop-up styles. Have you ever considered like a brick and mortar?" And at first I said no, just because like I said, I love the style and I love how flexible pop-ups are. So at first I said no, and he was like, "Well, we don't have an Asian concept in our portfolio. We would love to partner up with you, and we would run the restaurant for you. What you would do is like be the face, be the menu, like come like give us your ideas. Like this is your restaurant. We are operations." And I was like, oh my God, this is unreal. I can't believe that this is even something on the table for me because I would have never thought that uh, this would ever happen to anyone. One, that looks like me, and two, my age. And so it was just like a very surreal experience. And even though I felt really scared in that moment, I was just like, like I have nothing to lose, so let's try it. Let's just give it my best try. And that's how TwayDeBae was born.
Wow. Yes,
Yeah.
amazing. And I love in your book how you like focus on, we're going to talk about the book and what's in it, but you have sections on classic recipes, pop-up recipes, recipes that have been popular online.
Yeah.
And so you're really trying to guide home cooks through the journey of what you've been through with experiencing these different recipes that are in the
Exactly.
book. And I
Exactly.
think that it's kind of neat then for people to be able to take the book and follow your journey from like a classic, home style recipe to some things you did in your pop-ups, things have been popular online, in case someone hasn't experienced you or seen you in any of the places, all the places that you've been, they can use your book to do that.
Yeah, I really like when I was putting the book together, I was also doing those pop-ups at the same time. So it was like developing the recipes for the book and also developing recipes for the pop-ups. I was like, why don't I put some of these pop-up recipes in the book too? And so the book really take you along the whole journey because I was in that journey while I was writing the book itself.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it. When you're in it and you're experiencing the recipes, that's a great time for a book to come out.
Yeah, when I was writing it, I was like, this is kind of like a little diary.
Exactly. That's exactly what it's like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so like when you have a vlog, you're doing a video diary.
Yes.
Writing a cookbook is documenting and keeping track of what you're doing in the kitchen and writing. It is kind of like a diary and a reflection. And your uh, love for your work as a cook, your nostalgia about all the Vietnamese food that you were raised on, that you lived with, that you love, and how this now has led you to lead a community has been it's a great story to read in the book. And I thought we would dive into the book a little bit by you telling us, first of all, for people that are listening, who did you write the book for? Like, what do they need? What kind of skill level do they need to dive in and be successful?
I really wrote the book for my little sister.
Oh, good.
The
Yeah.
whole time when I was writing this book, I was like, if I didn't have a book deal, I would still be writing these recipes down for her because I only have a little sister. Like it's just been me and her my whole entire life. When we first came over to America, she was 2 years old and I was 8 years old. And at that time, like my parents had to work a lot. And so I would take on the responsibility of taking care of my little sister. So making her food, making her milk, like stuff like just taking care of her. And I feel like I'm her second mom. Every time like it's so funny because growing up when my sister would ask my mom for permission, my mom would be like, "Oh, I don't know, ask your sister." So I'm like, I feel like I'm her second mom. And I feel like because my mom didn't teach me how to cook, I just remember her cooking from the taste of it. I don't have a specific memory of her teaching me. I don't have anything written down from her. And so I feel like I would love to have something like that. And for my little sister, that's exactly what I did. And so that's why I tried to make the recipes really easy to follow. Like even if you don't have the book, I try to make the measurements in a way where it's like, oh, it's just all 1 tablespoons or all 2 tablespoons, something very easy to remember. So even if she doesn't have the book on her, she'll like be able to whip something up to
Right.
cook for
Great idea. Right. You did. And if you have the ingredients and you're making a sauce, for example, it's all just equal measurements of these things.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So what would you tell your little sister about stocking her pantry?
Ooh. Oh, when she looks at my pantry, she's like, why do you have so many things?
And what if people they're just starting, they need to get the most important things? What would you recommend?
So for my pantry, the most important things are absolutely always fish sauce. Fish sauce and sugar are the two most important things in my pantry. And then we have soy sauce or seasoning sauce, rice vinegar or apple cider vinegar, any type of vinegar to balance all the saltiness out. Honey, I love honey. It's just so I just feel like when you're building flavors, it's like the salty, the sweet, the sour, like all of it. I think it says it on the book, the
Yeah, it
salty,
says
sweet.
salty, sour, sweet, and spicy. They got to be balanced.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it has to just like be balanced and hit all of those notes. And as long as you have the condiments that hit those notes, like you're able to just be really flexible with it. And then you can expand on your pantry. Don't start going crazy right away because you, one, won't finish all of your pantry staples you'll like be all over the place, and it probably will get expired before
Yeah.
you end up using it. So just start slow. That's what I would tell her. Just start slow and start on like those staples.
Yeah. And if you want to get one item that's salty, would that be the seasoning sauce or the soy sauce,
That
right?
would that would be the fish sauce for
Oh,
me.
fish sauce. Okay. And then what about sour? That's the vinegar.
Sour would be vinegar or
And
limes, but
sweet would
vinegar.
be the honey or what, sugar?
Honey or sugar or palm sugar, any type of sugar, brown
Hmm.
sugar.
And then
And then
spicy.
spicy would either be Thai chilies. Thai chilies is like the number one spice that I truly love. I mean, I'm literally holding it and eating it on the cover.
Yep.
Or I like me a good sambal, sriracha, or like a chili oil.
Yep. So we got fish sauce, vinegar, sugar or honey, and then the spicy, whatever you choose, a chili or the sriracha
So
or whatever.
flexible,
Yep.
yes. You
Yep.
can
Very
do so
good.
many things with that.
Yep. All right. And what about tools? Does your sister need any special tools to cook from the
I don't
book?
think like any special tools, just like regular pots and pans. I don't even, for me, I don't even necessarily think you would need like a wok. If you want to, like that's fine. But like anything that you have in your kitchen already, I mean, definitely get some tools like spatulas and tongs and spoons to be cooking with. But other than that, like all of my recipes are pretty straight to the point. Like you don't really need anything crazy or special. I'm not trying to show you how to become like like this fancy chef.
Yeah, you want people to have success at home, but you do. Let's talk about the different recipes. Like, I'd love to talk about maybe a classic recipe, something maybe that's been popular on the internet, or something from the pop-up, just to give a comparison between the breadth of the recipes that are in this book, and that they're some things maybe were popular online that were not classic, or popular online that you wouldn't have in a pop-up, or do they really overlap?
They honestly sometimes overlapped. They would, because a lot of times I would make the classic recipes, but for the pop-ups, I would probably plate it in a different way, or I would add just like a little more razzle dazzle into it, adding some type of like textural component to it, instead of just like leaving it as is. So a lot of it just depends, but I mean, I've never served the braised catfish anywhere in any of my pop-ups, just because I feel like the braised catfish is just it's so traditional that I'm almost scared to like serve it to like people that didn't grow up eating it.
And
You know
so that would be a recipe that's in the classic chapter. Yes,
exactly.
yes. Well, no, I can understand that, because some things I think are meant to be reserved for just classic Vietnamese home cooking.
I think so too. And that's definitely one of those things. And another recipe that is in my pop-up section that's not in the classic would be the pickled what is it? The pickled garlic shrimp ceviche. So pickled garlic is such a classic condiment in pho when you're eating pho in Vietnam. I drown my pho broth in that liquid, in that pickling liquid with a whole bunch of garlic, and I love it so much. And I was just like, I was working on it with I was working on the pop-up menu collab with my friend Chef Margot over at I Ate Sushi, and she was like, let's try to make this into a ceviche. And we did it, and it was one of the best things I've ever tried. And it was just like, ah, why didn't I think about this sooner? So that's another one of those recipes where I was like, oh, that is some good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. And neat that it's reserved for the pop-up chapter.
Yep.
What about online? What's been popular with your social media channels? Like, even talk about the top two,
The
three things that just like go
one
gangbusters.
Definitely the viral fried rice recipe. The lemongrass recipe is also a really, really good and easy one as well. The honey glazed shrimp is has always been a part of every single menu that I have. Like almost every single menu. That is just like my menu, including there's a honey glazed shrimp at Didi too. Um, that recipe will always be like my baby because that was the first recipe that I developed in during culinary school for a final. So I always have like a soft spot for that recipe. And then I have the Vietnamese coffee creme brulee recipe that I took the people along on the journey of me developing it. Like I think it took me like 4 tries to get it to the exact way that I would like it, and very proud of that one as well. That one is also on the DD menu and has been on a lot of my pop-up menus as well.
Nice. Very good. Well, what else would you like people to know about the book itself?
Um, Let me see. I want people to know that this is a book that you can use to also express your creativity, because that's how I came up with this book. It's just through like my journey, but also like through creativity, especially when it comes to like the dessert sections or the sections where the entertaining section where I combined a lot of like classic American dishes or just like dishes that I've had from other cultures that I love, and I incorporated Vietnamese components into it, like the bò kho birria tacos or the pandan cinnamon rolls. I really, really love those recipes as well. So be creative in the kitchen. And I feel like my recipe, you can always use my recipe as like a starting point, right? And that's what a lot of times I use recipes as starting points. And then you just add and take away whatever it is that like isn't up to your liking. And then you make it your own. That's what I want to encourage people to do with this cookbook, because I'm like, this is the starting point, but you can go from here.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that that's the way recipes really can teach someone something new too, is to use it as a starting point, maybe make it again with the recipe, and then you really becomes part of who you are, and you can make variations on it. You can change it up a little bit. But I think if someone learns from you though, Tway, they would always remember that they learned how to do that from you and from your book, and your work allowed them to enter a space in cooking that maybe they didn't even think they could enter into.
I think it's really cool. I mean, there's a garlic noodle recipe in there that that's a part of the viral recipes section. And people have said, like, I have been bringing this to family gatherings and my family loves it. And I'm just like so blown away by that because, like, wow, I feel like now I'm a part of your family gathering.
Yes.
And you're taking me along on this too. And every time you make it, it reminds you of me.
Yeah, no, I think that totally happens with recipe creators, recipes in books. They get absorbed into the culture of families and are served over and over often at families. And it's not that every recipe in your whole repertoire would be, but there are certain ones that are going to be special to certain people, and they will make them over and over and over again, which
It's
is
so
amazing.
special.
It
It's such
is.
a special feeling when I just get that tag of a repost that somebody made my recipe for their dinner or for their families. I'm just like, I played a part in that.
I think it would be fun if you talked a little bit about the design of this cookbook. It's a very lively, colorful design, a
Yes.
joy to look at and a joy to cook from. So, talk a little bit about your vision for the book and your design vision, and then how the publisher helped you bring that to life.
So I really wanted my cookbook to be vibrant and colorful. Every time I envisioned it in my head, I was like, colorful, it has to be colorful because that's what Vietnamese culture is. Like we're so colorful. We love colors in everything that we do. And I just can't envision a cookbook where it's just blank, like white pages.
Yeah.
That's why I love my pink pages. I love the colorful fonts and the fun fonts. I have a little character sprinkled throughout the cookbook. Her name is Tiny Tway. She's like a tiny cartoon version of me. And that is just like something that she's been a part of me, and this is her latest version right now, but she's been a part of me since like the journey. What I personally really love is I love like caricatures. Anytime that I go to like Disneyland or Universal and there's like the caricature people drawing, I will always stop and get one, even if they're bad. Like I love just character stuff. And so I wanted to include her into this cookbook because I think that she's just so cute to look at. I
Yes,
can
she is. And she's doing all sorts of different things in the book. So it is fun to, now that you mention her, to see her sprinkled throughout the whole thing.
I think she's really fun, and I can see her maybe like, I don't know, starring in a children's cookbook or a children's like show. I don't know. I love her. I think she's really unique.
Yeah. And there's some other people in the book, pictures of them. Yeah. Tell me about the other people.
So my mom, my stepdad Kevin, and my little sister is sprinkled into the book just because I don't think that my journey with food would have been the same without them
Yeah.
at all, 100%.
Yeah, it's beautiful. You've some really nice pictures of you and then also the family. I think that really ties the whole thing together, knowing that you wanted your heritage to be at the center of this work that you were doing. And it
Yes.
seems to me from everything that you've said, you've really been able to remain true to that no matter what avenue you were sharing your recipes in.
Yeah. They were really excited to be a part of the cookbook shoot when I asked them. They were like, "Really? You want us to be a part of it?" I was like, "Absolutely. What?"
Yeah, yeah,
No
amazing,
doubt.
amazing. So why don't you tell everybody, as we're wrapping up, something I like to ask all of my guests is if you have a cookbook or a favorite cookbook that has influenced you throughout the years that you would like to share with the audience.
One cookbook that came to mind would be Anthony Bourdain's Appetites, just because it's a really unique cookbook. I feel like a lot of cookbooks that you see, I mean, mine included, are very polished and picture perfect, and it's just pictures of perfectly plated foods. And I feel like his is so different because it's not even food on the cover or him on the cover, it's a piece of art. And when you flip through the first few pages, it's like pictures of just literal trash. And I just love the way that it's just unconventional and it's so not a cookbook. I just love that.
Yeah.
He
So,
inspires me a lot.
yeah, I think so too. Uh, I love the way he wrote and the things that he talked about. And that's Appetite's a Cookbook by Anthony Bourdain. And I will link to that in the show notes. All right. So another thing I'm going to link to, Tway, is how people can connect with you online.
Okay, you can find me on all social platforms at TwayDeBae. That's TwayDaBae.
Very good. And what's your favorite way to share your content online these days?
Ooh, my favorite ways have been, honestly, it's always been Instagram, but TikTok was what really blew it up for me. But I'm loyal to Instagram. I'm also working on a YouTube series, so I'm back on YouTube, baby.
Nice. Very good. Well, at TwayDeBae, we can find you in all places. And the name of the book is Dion, a Vietnamese Cooking with TwayDeBae.
Yes, thank you so much, Maggie, for
Yeah,
having
thank
me.
you. Thank you for coming on the show. We wish you nothing but the best with your book. Have fun talking about it, promoting it, and sharing your love for Vietnamese cooking with all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today for this episode of the Cookbook Love podcast. Again, all the links can be found in the show notes at www.cookbooklove.co. And if you are interested in writing a cookbook of your own, please check out the free cookbook writing masterclass called How to Get Paid to Write a Cookbook. It is designed specifically for food or nutrition experts, and you can check that out at www.cookbookwritersacademy.com/free. So that's it for today's episode of the Cookbook Love Podcast. This is your host, Maggie Green, and until next time, have a great day and keep loving your cookbooks.
Thanks for listening to the Cookbook Love Podcast. You can find out more information at www.cookbooklove.co.